Title: King William's War, the First Battle for North America. Chapter 1: The Drums of War. The cold wind howled through the dense forests of Acadia, carrying with it the scent of pine and the whispers of war. Samuel Holt, a grizzled English trader in his late 60s, adjusted his heavy wool coat as he watched the flickering torchlights in the distance. War was coming again. He had seen too many battles in his time, but none had left scars like those he carried from the last frontier skirmishes against the French and their native allies. In 1688, England and France were once again at war, their rivalry spilling over into the vast, untamed wilderness of North America. The colonies of New France and New England braced for bloodshed as King William's War erupted, a war that would redefine the continent's future. As he stared into the dark woods, Samuel gripped his musket tightly. He knew the French wouldn't fight alone. The Wabanaki Confederacy and their Mohawk allies had long sought to reclaim their lands from the English settlers encroaching further west. This war would not be fought on European battlefields, it would be fought in the forests, the rivers, and the frozen plains of the New World. Chapter 2: The Siege of Pemaquid. By the summer of 1689, the first major battle of King William's War struck fear into the hearts of English settlers. The Siege of Pemaquid, a small English outpost on the coast of Maine, became the first bloody chapter in a long and brutal conflict. Samuel stood alongside the outnumbered English troops as they peered over the wooden palisades. In the distance, the warriors of Chief Madakawando of the Wabanaki Confederacy stood ready, their war paint blending with the shadows of the trees. French soldiers, led by the cunning Jean-Vincent d'Abadie de Saint-Castin, stood among them, their muskets raised. The French and their allies attacked with a ferocity Samuel had never seen. Arrows whistled through the air, finding their marks among the defenders. Smoke choked the sky as torches were thrown against the wooden walls. The crack of musket fire echoed through the forest, and men fell screaming into the dirt. Samuel fired his musket, reloading with shaking hands, his mind racing back to the war of his youth. The battle raged for hours, but the English could not hold. As the gates fell, Samuel and a handful of survivors fled into the woods, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind them, Pemaquid burned, the first of many settlements to fall in the long war ahead. Chapter 3: The French Counterattack. In 1690, the English sought revenge. Sir William Phips, a bold and ambitious commander, led an expedition to capture Port Royal, the heart of French Acadia. Samuel, despite his age, volunteered to fight. He had lost too much already: friends, land, and peace. If this was to be his last battle, he would meet it head-on. The English fleet descended upon Port Royal, their cannons roaring as musket fire erupted across the shore. The French, unprepared for such an assault, fought bravely but could not hold the fortress. Within days, Port Royal fell, and the English raised their banner over Acadia. For a brief moment, victory seemed possible. But the French were not so easily broken. Chapter 4: The Bloody Winter. The winter of 1692 was the coldest Samuel had ever known. Snow covered the ground in thick sheets, muffling the sound of marching boots and the cries of the dying. The French, alongside their Abenaki and Mohawk allies, launched a devastating series of raids against the English colonies. The worst of these came at Schenectady, New York, where 200 French and native warriors struck under the cover of night. Doors were broken down, homes set ablaze, and entire families slaughtered in their beds. Samuel arrived at the ruins days later, his heart heavy as he walked through the smoldering remains of what had once been a thriving frontier town. He had seen war before, but this was different. This was a war of annihilation. The attacks were relentless. The Abenaki launched raids deep into New England, torching towns and cutting off supply lines. In retaliation, the English burned native villages, killing warriors and civilians alike. The cycle of violence became endless, and the wilderness itself seemed to bleed. Chapter 5: The Battle for Quebec. By 1693, the war had reached a turning point. England, desperate to crush the French hold on North America, launched an ambitious plan, an attack on Quebec, the fortress heart of New France. Samuel, despite his age and the weight of his battles, found himself aboard a ship bound for the St. Lawrence River. He knew this would be the final test of his endurance. The English fleet under Sir William Phips sailed through icy waters, their sights set on Quebec's stone walls. The French, led by the cunning Count Frontenac, were prepared. As the English landed, they were met with cannon fire from the city's high cliffs. The assault was brutal, with muskets flashing in the cold air and bodies falling onto the rocky shore. Samuel and his comrades fought desperately, pushing toward the city gates. But Quebec held firm. The English, outnumbered and underprepared for the harsh winter, were forced to retreat. The French had won, and Samuel barely escaped with his life. Chapter 6: The End of an Era. By 1697, after nearly a decade of bloodshed, both England and France had grown weary of war. The Treaty of Ryswick was signed, bringing an uneasy peace to the colonies. The war had resolved little. Borders remained the same, tensions still simmered, and both sides knew it was only a matter of time before conflict ignited once more. Samuel returned to what was left of his home in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, his body weary, his spirit broken. He had survived, but at what cost? The forests were still filled with ghosts, the memories of battles and lost friends whispering in the wind. As he sat by the fire, staring into the flames, he knew one thing for certain. This war was only the beginning. Final thoughts. King William's War was the first major conflict between England and France in North America, a brutal precursor to the wars that would follow. It was a war of shifting alliances, of blood-soaked frontiers, and of ordinary men like Samuel Holt, who found themselves caught in the endless cycle of war. The echoes of King William's War would shape the fate of North America for centuries to come. And for those who had fought, the battle never truly ended. It simply became history. Let me know if you'd like additional expansions, adjustments, or more immersive storytelling. Rock it! If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and become a part of our community. Here, you'll find historical wars, inspiring stories, and unique content based on real events. If you want to see more engaging and fact-based stories, hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest videos instantly. Your support means the world to us. Leave a comment and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next. Raising hands fire. Bell subscribe, share, and help us bring these incredible stories to the world.